Good evening. You're on the smoking section with Stephen Helfer. And anybody who wants to call, of course, is welcome to call. Having some uh, varied thoughts. I kind of watch television nightly, and it's almost an addiction. I find it I just really, really want to watch television and zone out. And of course, that gets into what exactly is addiction, and can you be addicted to television, or can you be addicted to gambling, and all of those kinds of questions, which I'm going to probably talk about a little bit later. But one show that I watch with some regularity is on public television, and it's called Poldark, and it takes place probably around the year 1800 in Britain. And it's almost hard for me to watch it because nobody smokes in it. And this was in an era where I think historically tobacco was extremely popular. Tobacco, pipes, cigars, snuff, possibly even cigarettes. I don't know about that. Probably not cigarettes that much. Yet the makers of the show, very, very occasionally, you may see a man smoking a pipe, but even in a tavern where I think all the men would be smoking pipes and perhaps cigars, there is no smoking at all. There's plenty of drinking in the show. The main character likes to drink a lot, as does his wife. I mean, not in excess or anything like that, but it's just, does the dramatist have any kind of duty to, for example, present things authentically, or can he change them and just manipulate them because he doesn't want to have teenagers see people smoking on the show, even if it's historically accurate? And I guess that's a kind of question that I mean, a lot of people certainly derive a certain amount of understanding about time periods from movies and other things about them. So, for example, people are going to get a very, very, I think, inauthentic idea about tobacco in this era. And of course, the Revolutionary War was also known as the Tobacco Wars in some places. Now, because I had to do a lot. I mean, the Americans' colonies, I think their primary product was to ship tobacco back to England. So presumably there was an awful lot of smoking going on in England, and in this particular show it's completely eliminated. I guess that's the choice of the director, or perhaps the British Broadcasting Corporation has a fiat that no one can allow smoking, or they have to be very, very circumspect about it. I remember also when Downton Abbey was on, nobody smoked, for the most part, nobody smoked except the two evil servants who were always smoking and conniving, so that the person who wrote that series and the director, I guess they were using, I don't know if they were definitely trying to stigmatize smoking and smokers, or because smokers have been stigmatized and smoking has been stigmatized so much, they were just using it as a device, a dramatic device to kind of foster or foment dislike of these two characters in the movie. But I'm kind of interested because Quentin Tarantino is going to have a movie coming out that actually the Boston Globe gave 4 stars, and it takes place during the 60s, I think the very late 60s. And I'm not a big fan of his movies, at least those that I've seen of his, but I have a feeling he is going to accurately depict the time period as closely as he can, even if he is doing a piece of fiction, which I think primarily, that is, this is definitely a piece of fiction, but I have a feeling that he is the kind of director who would not eliminate aspects of the period for whatever reason. Let's pick up a phone call here. You're on the smoking section. One moment. You're on the smoking section. Welcome. Are you there? Oh, let's see. Can I? Hello. Okay, well, we'll see if somebody calls back. We're having a little trouble, technical problems. That's not uncommon at CCTV. But if anyone has seen that Tarantino movie, I would be very interested in how much smoking there is in it. There should be a lot. I think one of the movies about the Apollo moonshot, I can't remember what it was, but I think the New York Times reviewer complained about the smoking in it, but evidently the makers of the movie, again, I think it's a matter of integrity, artistic integrity. Do you depict a time period accurately, even if it's fiction that you're doing, or do you eliminate those things that you feel is not good for people to see? Let's try once more to pick up here. You're on the smoking section. Hello.
Hello, Steve.
This is Steve.
Steve, hold on a second while I turn off the volume.
It's been a long time, Michael.
I know, I haven't heard from you for a while. I guess you haven't heard from me for a while.
I haven't heard from you, and I apologize because I more or less respond to you rather than proactively get in touch with you. How have you been?
I've been well. Been bicycling around down here in Philadelphia still.
Well, we had a good time in Philadelphia.
Glad to hear that. You and Emily both.
Both of us did.
The two famous co-hosts at the smoking section visiting Philadelphia.
Yes, it was an epic voyage and trip. Do you have any comments on the current topic of discussion?
Yes, I do. That's why I called.
Makes sense.
You were talking about smoking in the movies and on TV.
Right.
Back a number of years ago, when I first became aware of how thoroughly they were getting into this whole Big Brother aspect of portraying the world in a way that wasn't real in order to put the image of that unreal world into people's minds.
Yes.
They can believe that that is the way it is. And a series that I began watching back around that time was called Bones.
Oh, Bones.
Bones?
I'm not, but I think I've heard of it.
Bones ran for about a dozen seasons.
That's a long time.
Yep, something like, I think it was something like 1,200 minutes. Well, it might have been 2,000 minutes of time altogether for all the episodes. And during those 2,000 minutes, they showed roughly 1,500 instances of drinking.
Yes, really.
Now, in count as an instance, I tried to use the model that the anti-smokers use when they are counting films are filled with smoking.
Right.
So if there are two people and they're each smoking a cigarette on the screen, that counts as two instances of smoking.
Yes.
So for drinking, you had, like I say, about 1,500 incidents
Right.
of drinking.
Right.
Now, out of all those episodes, there was about 210 episodes.
Yes.
How many portrayals do you think there were of smoking?
52.
No, try a little bit lower.
Oh my gosh. 26.
1,500 incidents of drinking,
Right.
but there were only 5 instances of smoking.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's
If you
amazing.
look around the world in reality, do you see people drinking 300 drinks for every time that you see somebody smoking a cigarette?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Even,
yeah.
even in the 5 instances of smoking, one of them was an old derelict in a junkyard
Right.
who went to light a cigarette while he was in an outhouse, and he blew himself up.
Oh, right. Yes.
And another was a gang of pedophiles living under a bridge in tents.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So they were allowed to smoke because they were
Right.
real pedophiles living
Yes.
under a bridge.
Yes.
One was a murderer, where they found a piece of ash at the crime scene in a pool of blood.
Oh gosh.
And one of the analysts said, "Oh my God, this is a clue. It's 2010, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's 2010. Nobody smokes anymore."
Well, you know, I know that when I used to watch Miami Vice, which was in the 80s, I don't know if you ever saw that, but Don Johnson was smoking an awful. He was the main character, and he was also the hero, and he smoked all the time, and he smoked Lucky Strikes.
But now if I remember correctly, I only watched a few episodes a long time ago.
Yes.
He didn't shave for
Huh.
did he?
No, but he was a very romantic character. Very, you know, he was. Why do you bring that up? That he didn't.
And that's something the anti-smokers would object to.
Oh, right. Yes, but this was. Well, I'm really pointing out that on network television in the 80s, it was still acceptable to have a sympathetic character, even a heroic character, smoke heavily.
Yes, they had begun implementing the erasure of smoking from the airways, but they hadn't gotten all that far with it yet at that point.
No, I mean, and so, well, I think, for example, I was mentioning Quentin Tarantino. I don't know if it's Quentin or Quentin. Are you familiar with that director?
Yes, I think it's fine.
Well, my guess is he will have a lot of smoking in his movie because I think when he makes a movie, he wants to make it realistic, and he will not. I think he's got a certain amount of integrity, so I don't think he will adjust it to suit the needs of the anti-smoking cadres.
Oh, we'll have to see what he does. Did he direct the movie? I'm forgetting the name of it at the moment, but the famous image is of Liv Ullmann kind of reclining on her elbow in a bed with a bob hair of dark hair and holding a cigarette.
No, I don't think so. No, that Quentin Tarantino is far later than Liv Ullmann, I think.
All right.
Now, let me ask you one last question before I get back to my soliloquy, I think you call them, right? I just saw a Shakespeare play, so there was no smoking in it. But, of course, they didn't smoke in Shakespeare's time. I don't think tobacco had been introduced to Britain by that time, at that time. Well, I mean, I think tobacco was introduced to Britain around, well, probably around, let's say the 1500s.
Yes.
And I guess I don't know what Shakespeare's dates are, but I mean, those early movies. Do you think there was a lot of product placement by tobacco companies in movies at any time? I mean, I'm sure there was some.
I think there was probably a fair amount, but it wasn't so much a tobacco company laying out money to promote smoking. They were mainly laying out money so that people would see their product. Show them the Pat Marlboro.
Right, but like for example, if you look at the movies with Humphrey Bogart or Jimmy Stewart, um, a lot of them, there's an awful lot of smoking, and these are movies that were made. I'm talking about before the '60s. You can't
Well, there's a good reason for that from the viewpoint of a cinematic director.
What's that?
When someone is smoking, it attracts your vision
Yeah.
to their face because they're doing something that is animated in a way, and they're doing something that the way in which they are doing it can tell you about how they're feeling.
Oh, right, exactly.
Are they blowing out a big cloud of very relaxed smoke?
Right. Yes.
Or are they taking lots of tiny little puffs and snorting them out through their nose?
Well, and also, there's a certain romanticness to his puff, like when a woman takes a cigarette out and blows the smoke in your face inadvertently, let's say, or, and there's a certain amount of moisture in the cigarette from her mouth. It's kind of, it's very sensual. But my point is, you can't distinguish what cigarettes anybody is smoking in any of those movies.
No, you've got a point. I don't think he does. I don't think
So it did not seem like that. I mean, I don't think tobacco placement in movies probably. I mean, have you ever studied it? I mean, I don't think it started. I don't think there was any product placement in movies until the 50s or 60s. I don't think.
You might be right. First, I remember hearing of instances of it was somewhere in the early 60s.
Yeah. And now, of course, it's verboten.
Right.
But I'll tell you one interesting thing about that, and that is that there was a movie made probably about 15 years ago, and I don't remember the movie, but the tobacco company, or a tobacco company lawyer wrote the filmmaker and said that we do not want you to use our product in your movie, because somehow he had found out that they were going to use, I don't know whether it was Marlboro or whatever, and they weren't going to use it in a disparaging way. They were simply going to have the character smoke it. And the movie maker said that the United States, I guess you would call them trademark laws, allow people to use products in their movies without they have a certain amount of fair use. Like if I have a character in my movie drive a Cadillac, I don't need to get permission from Cadillac. Or if I have a character smoke a Camel non-filter, I don't need to get permission, which is an interesting, people, they don't need to get permission to use the trademark. There is a certain amount of fair use.
But they don't have to get permission for everything they show.
Right. Sometimes, I mean, that's called, but it was an interesting thing. The cigarette companies didn't want them to use it because they felt probably that they would incur the wrath of the anti-smokers.
There's something that's a little bit funny because it's a little bit different, but along the same line. I think it was somewhere in the 1990s, maybe early 2000s, where the new candy came out. called Twizzlers.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a stick of like some kind of gooey stuff.
Yes. Twizzlers evidently must have made some kind of deal with one of the networks.
Yeah,
Because suddenly you saw the characters in the network,
right.
in their productions. They all had these little jars of Twizzlers on their desks.
Yeah.
And they just take them out and start chewing on them while they were talking.
Well, there's nothing. I don't think the only product that you can't have product placement for is tobacco products.
Right. Right. They're the only ones that are actually limited.
And of course, Disney is the most strict about that. I mean, I don't know if you know or not, but when they made a movie with depicting Walt Disney and his negotiations with the woman who wrote, I don't think it was Mary Poppins or something, which was, she didn't want anybody to do it, and he went over there, and they developed a rapport, etc. And there was a movie making, and the Disney Corporation said to the movie maker that we will cooperate entirely with you under the one condition that you not allow any depiction of Walt Disney smoking, because Walt Disney was in fact a heavy smoker.
That's true.
Did you hear about that?
I didn't know it was in a film.
Well,
but I do know that a cigarette had been airbrushed out of many, many depictions of Walt Disney.
Is that right? That I didn't know.
Yes, that is something that was very common. And it's difficult to find a picture of him smoking now, because when they see one of them being broadcast or even put up on the internet somewhere, they'll immediately step in and threaten to sue for the illegitimate depiction of him without permission. Now, normally they don't care if you show his picture without permission, but if you show a picture of him with a cigarette, suddenly the lawyers will come after you.
Right. Well, the Disney Corporation is a very, what you might call, well, they're very concerned about their image, and they're not.
In the 1960s, there was no image problem with having somebody smoke.
No.
It was a normal thing that many people, good people and bad people, did.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely correct. I mean, I think John F. Kennedy was very concerned about, or not very concerned, but I don't think he liked his image with, his cigars. He liked cigars a lot. And Martin Luther King, who was actually assassinated while he was smoking a cigarette, he didn't like his picture taken with a cigarette, but of course he was a Baptist minister and whatnot. So, I mean, I think, you didn't, there was some, a lot of people didn't want their picture taken with a cigarette, even.
But, I mean, there was always some degree of negativity involved with cigarettes. Not so much with cigars. Cigars usually were meant to be the mark of somebody who's wealthy. The little monopoly guy in the top hat.
Yeah.
Would have a cigar.
And do you remember Ernie Kovacs?
I remember the name. I don't remember ever seeing him.
He was a wonderful comedian, very, very interesting, and he unfortunately died fairly young in an automobile accident and was buried with his cigars. And
Good for him.
I don't know if one can smoke in the afterlife, but I guess, Michael, we will find out.
I think it was Mark Twain who said, if you can't smoke in heaven, I'm going to the other place.
Michael, I gotta say goodnight.
Okay, have a good night, Stephen.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the smoking section. Good night.
Always do. Bye-bye.
Good night, my friend.